Greetings and welcome to Edgy Ideas, the podcast that explores what it means to live the good life and create the good society in our disruptive age. My name is Simon Western, and I will be talking to invited guests about diverse topics, exploring social conscious and unconscious dynamics and desires. Welcome to this edition of Edgy Ideas. Today I have two special guests from Poland. The story goes like this. I visited Poland maybe 4 months ago. I've been working with the Humanitarian Leadership Academy and with Save the Children charity. And we're working with the Ukrainian response, the refugee response. And whilst I was in Krakow and in Warsaw, I met some amazing leaders of NGOs. And we have two of them with us today. First, we have Karolina Bisping-Adamik. And Karolina is president of an NGO called Fine in Krakow. Previously, she was a dynamic organizer of cultural events and film festivals, and she has a master's in sociology from Jagiellonian University. Karolina, you're very welcome. Hello.
Thank you for the invitation.
We also have Zuzanna Tamas. Zuzanna is a co-founder of Salam Lab. This is another NGO based in Krakow, and it focuses on the most vulnerable populations. Zuzanna works with human rights, inclusion. She works against discrimination and building civil society. Her current role is Director of Humanitarian Aid and Fundraising. Zuzanna, you're very welcome to Edgy Ideas. How are you both today?
Glad to be here. Thank you for having us. We're good.
Good. So when I came to visit you and I was on a kind of fact-finding mission, trying to share some of the ideas I have around eco-leadership and see if they fitted with your ideas. And it was actually a very good fit, like the work I've been doing on eco-leadership about how we engage organizations in a very different way than a sort of top-down hierarchy. Fitted very much with kind of the work you were doing. But I was really inspired by your work. So can I start with Karolina, just to ask you to tell your story really of what happened when the war broke out in Ukraine, how you kind of decided to act. What happened?
Okay, so I didn't expect that in 1 year time I will be in charge of the Fine NGO foundation, and that we will run kindergarten for 100 children and some other projects for the United Nations and the UNICEF agency. So it all starts a couple of days after the war, because here in Krakow we have plenty of immigrants, especially mothers with the young children with suitcases with some notes in the strange alphabet, searching for addresses and how to get somewhere. And that was very hard situation for us, I mean for the citizen of Krakow, because it never happened in our life to be the witness of such a huge movement, migration of people in such a short time. So I'm personally I'm the mother of 3 children, so I simply empathized with those mothers. Imagine what kind of struggle they need to face in a very short time, especially that there was the people who are looking exactly like us. So
Yeah.
like we are 3 hours from the border. That's the difference between us. So I decided that for me, like being the parent, the best help in these circumstances, it will be to give me a hand with the children, that I can feel that someone is taking the proper care under my children, and in this time I can face all the problems like registration, searching the flat, searching the job, everything. What you can imagine. So that was the plan. I decided that in my case I cannot host someone at home for a longer period, just maybe for a couple of days, but our flat is not such a big to host the other families. So I knew that this is not the solution in my case. Exactly the same thing was with the transport going to the border, because there was back these days a lot of people were trying to give the transport from the border, but again, I cannot leave my husband with the children and then be the driver. So I decided that with my skills, what I'm doing, organizing the big events, I can organize such a project as a kindergarten. So I was only thinking, do we have a space to do that? So I called some of my friends, people who I work with, usually with the projects, and then I found someone the Potocki family, who have the empty, huge spaces, ballrooms in the palace, in the main market square in Krakow, Pałac pod Baranami. That's about 400 square meters of like really amazing ballrooms. Which are normally working as a business. They are organizing the Habsburg weddings and so on, or some very fancy receptions. And I asked them, it is possible that we'll organize there the kindergarten? And they, again, like me, being the parents of the children, they said, yes, we can do that, because everyone was searching for a possibility to help somehow, how they can help, like do something what matters. So like this, they said yes. So then we have 400 meters, so we're gonna we can have like about 100 children. And then again, I called to some people who I know who run the kindergartens, ask them how to prepare the budget. So then I called to the other people who help me with the production and organizing the logistic and everything, and so on and so on. So I make a lot of calls, and I decided, okay, so we have the crew, and that is possible to arrange. So we want to do it very quickly. Then we thought 1 week. In 1 week time, we're going to open the kindergarten for 100 children. 1 week, because I feel the pressure. That was the emotion which give me that 1 week, not the brain for sure, but emotions. Like I realized that there is someone waiting in front of my door, knocking and asking for help, and I cannot say, look, give me 1 hour, give me 2 hours, but I just wanted to tell them, give me 1 week, okay? And I'm here, I'm organizing it, and I will be ready, but give me 1 week. After a couple of days, of course, I realized this is impossible, so we make it 2 weeks, and then it happened. But I opened the fundraising. I go to the fundraising page, and I write the announcement to all the friends, all the people I ever met through my studies, through my whole life abroad, asking them for help, us here in Krakow, because around me everywhere, everyone who I know tried to help somehow. And I knew that there is plenty of people abroad who were watching the news and thinking that they want to do something. They want to help somehow, but they don't know how. Some of them were thinking that maybe to come to Poland as a volunteers, help somehow. But as I find out, this simply question to them, please give us a funds for realizing this plan. I write, what is the plan, what we want to do. And the answer goes very quickly. Like we gave us 1 week to wait if we can manage to collect this amount of money which we thought we need. We were wrong. Now I know that, but then we have something about 60,000-70,000 zloty, which is less than something about 18,000 euros. So we asked the question, and after one night, when I wake up, I saw that we already have the amount higher than we asked. And then we changed the idea, and we said that we're gonna help as long as we have funds for this, and as long that there is the need, of course. So like I said, in 2 weeks we opened the kindergarten for 100 children. We divide them for 4 groups, age groups, similar like in Poland, 3, 4, 5, and 6 years old. we hire Ukrainian teachers, kindergarten teachers who came with the conflict to Poland, just giving them the opportunity to find the job in their occupation. And so we hire four teacher helpers, Ukrainian psychologists. We get a lot of volunteers. All the Polish people were volunteers, and some other international staff was volunteers. And we paid only the Ukrainian staff who just get the work. So we have the director of the kindergarten, bilingual, very helpful in the situation, because there was the problem for us with the communication. Like when we look for the people and try to hire them, without someone who can help us to translate in 3 days, find someone like all crew. That was amazing, and we find great people who are still with us, like 80% of them. Some of them changed their plans, go back to
Yeah,
Ukraine
yeah.
further. Yeah. So we collect everything. We open the website. We open the social media. We had a lot of attention, of media attention, and that helps us a lot, because after 2 weeks, when we open, there was the queue waiting, 100 people waiting in a line to get into the kindergarten, and that was great success. We get a lot of psychologists helping us, because the Krakow is the university city. So we get a lot of psychologists helping us with this supervision, and plenty of other academic teachers and students who are giving us a hand to prepare it as
How
a.
did you, it's an incredible story. Like within 2 weeks to get this up and running, and then to get the fundraising. That's a lot of coordination. How do you kind of you're fundraising, you're trying to hire teachers, you're trying to do the legal work, you're trying to manage the children. How did that coordination happen? How did you manage so many dynamic things happening all at once?
you know I'm asking myself, and I really don't know. I really
Yeah.
don't know. Like that was crazy. Sometimes
Mhm.
after a couple months, when we were thinking, okay, how it was possible that we did it, we really don't know. Everybody was working like 200%. That's amazing. So
It is.
many people help, so many people who I never expect them, that they find time,
Yeah.
to help. Everyone was on yes. So the
And,
point
and
was
how
yes.
quickly how quickly did you move from being Carolina and a few friends gaining money and doing some work to an organization? How long did that take? And I guess you needed to be a charity for the funding or to hold the money, was
2 weeks again, and so we registered the foundation in 2 weeks. The regular minimum time to register the
it?
foundation through the court in Poland, that takes about 6 weeks. But with the help of the lawyers and everyone around, we were sending the letters to the court, asking, please let us make it quicker. We need the money. And this press and media attention helps, of course, a lot, because
Yeah,
everyone
yeah,
started to talk about it, because about us, because people were searching for some good news. After two
yes,
weeks chaotic situation on the border, having the eye on the kindergarten in the main market, where the children are happy under the good care of psychologists, everyone needed, that gave people hope that we're gonna struggle somehow and with this situation, and we're gonna win as a people. So
yeah. It's a
that's
fantastic
why
story,
everyone were helping us
and really,
seriously.
really
And yeah, after
congratulations
two
on
weeks
all that
we
work
already
and to
had
all
the
your
foundation,
colleagues. And
because
it's
we need to take those money from the fundraising to the foundation account, through the transparency and everything. So
yeah,
all legal reasons. So in 2 weeks time we became the fine NGO foundation.
Carolina, this really inspiring story. Thank you so much. We're going to come back to it, but I'd like to invite Zuzanna to talk about Salem, and that's a bit of a different story. Salem is already existing, is that right, Zuzanna?
Yes, and I think that definitely helped us. We didn't have to struggle with registration in 2 weeks. We were already a registered association, and we were working as an informal group of people at first. But what forced us to register was the situation at the Belarusian border, and that experience gave us a lot of knowledge and skills to be able to handle the next crisis that came up.
So just to for listeners, the Belarusian border was Assyrians. Was it coming across and being stopped at the border? Was that correct?
It's all nationalities pretty much.
All nationalities.
It started in summer 21, and Belarus basically opened connections for people from all over to come to Belarus, and then moved them through the Belarusian border with Poland. And they were getting stuck in the Polish forest. There were a lot of pushbacks. People were being sent back to the border. They were mistreated by the border control, and very, very horrible conditions, and
Yeah.
definitely needed humanitarian aid. It was
Yeah.
pure humanitarian aid work at that time,
Okay.
and
Thanks.
often against, or maybe not against, but not in line with the political
Yes.
line. So it was a completely different help that we were providing there than what we could do later on, while helping Ukrainians in Krakow. But that gave us a lot of experience, knowledge, skills, and we had one thing that could quickly be transferred into the help we were giving Ukrainians was a small database of people, Polish people, who were willing to host refugees.
Hmm.
That was created for the refugees coming from all over, that they were in refugee detention centers, and we were just trying to help with accommodation at the time. And when we knew that the war broke out, we reached out to those people and asked if they're willing to host Ukrainians, and of course they were. So right on the first night, we were able to match Ukrainian families coming in with Polish people willing to host them.
Wow.
And also I think the crucial thing is that right on the first day of the war, we were able to open a help center. You've
Hmm.
been there, you've seen it. It's pretty
Yeah.
big. The location is amazing. It's very close to the train station, and there were hundreds of people coming in every day, every night on the first days.
And your initial work was really accommodation, at a very basic kind of feeding people, clothing people, accommodation.
Yeah, definitely, because that's what they needed at first. And they were
Yeah.
coming, there was a train connection directly from the border to Krakow. So there were people coming from war zone to Krakow right directly, and they needed, that first humanitarian aid pretty much. So that's how the help center came about. And we didn't plan it, but we opened an emergency shelter where
Hmm.
people could stay for 2-3 nights. One floor was just supplies, access to information, and basic things, and the whole upper floor was a shelter.
Yeah.
I think it was the first place where people could stay in Krakow, so it was very important that we managed to act so quickly.
Yeah. That's very interesting how you pivot from one thing to another. Both of you have kind of used different skill sets, and the war breaks out, and you immediately responded, which is very impressive. How did things develop from then, Zuzanna? From the like initial kind of response, you developed further from that, haven't you?
Yes, of course. It's developing organically, I would say, and we
Hmm.
definitely monitor the needs, but it's very, very quick change. Even now we're more stable, but a year has passed and a lot has changed throughout the year. We don't have the shelter anymore. There was no need for it anymore. Mid-May, we closed down the shelter. It still functions as a help center where we provide access to information. We were able to provide cash assistance, and we transformed the space completely during that year. Uh, we now have all sorts of activities within the space. We have, Polish classes, psychological support, yoga classes. Everything's going on, and because the needs change, right?
Yes.
And at first, this humanitarian aid and immediate shelter was needed. Now we have the newcomers, and we have people who've been here for a year, and they require completely different
Hmm.
support from us. And accommodation was like a key activity that Salam Lab was doing from the beginning. And again, it wasn't planned, just because we had that database at the beginning, and we wanted to expand the database because we knew that this is needed, and people come in, and we couldn't. There were no shelters and big scale shelters, and we couldn't host people for many days because there were new hundreds of people coming the next day.
Yeah.
So we set up a simple Google form asking Polish people to sign up if they're willing to host refugees. And that simple form was then shared on the national government website.
Wow.
So it exploded, and we had thousands and thousands of people, sign up. And then it required completely new set of skills and IT system that had to be developed.
Yeah.
Data protection, all sorts of things you don't think of, but it became like accommodation became something that Salam Lab does in Krakow, and the municipality knows about it, and other NGOs know about it. So completely unexpectedly, but we became the point of contact for accommodation, and
Yeah.
because of that, we were able to secure funding for other forms of accommodation. So we Airbnb reached out to us,
Hmm.
and we have still an ongoing contract with Airbnb where we are able to host refugees in Airbnb accommodation. And another foundation, Biedronka, Karolina knows for sure. It's a store in Poland. They have a foundation, and they are able to provide accommodation for our refugees.
So is most of your funding coming from these private organizations, or from individuals, or from INGOs? Where do you get your funding from, Zuzanna, mainly?
INGOs, I would say. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, Yes, definitely. But still, from what I know, the research shows that it's a tiny, tiny percentage of money from INGOs that goes to local NGOs. So that's a shame. We're very, as you said, we're very adaptive and we act quickly. We were the first to respond on the first day of the war. So I see, big value in INGOs appreciating our work. And
Yeah.
yeah, I hope this could be more recognized.
Yeah, there's quite a debate in the humanitarian sector around this, isn't there, around the localization and how the money gets distributed. So
Hmm.
very aware of that debate. Well, both of you, it's amazing. I mean, what one thing's interested me. I travelled. I think we saw about 15 different organisations, and I would say that 90% of the people we met were women, which was and both of you are women. Women leadership in NGOs. Can you say something about that? Is that the power of women leadership in Poland, and why that is? And have you any thoughts on that?
There's research about that too. It seems to be a thing worldwide, I would say. I don't know your experience in other countries, but definitely in Poland, there's much bigger presence of women in NGOs. And definitely patriarchy is part of the reason.
Hmm.
And the stereotypes around emotions helping, like it still feels like a woman's role. And I'm not saying that we try to fit into that role, but more that this is why men don't participate as much and don't treat it as a serious job maybe sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's from the one perspective. I mean the organization, but the other thing is the interest. I was so terrified when I find out our social media statistic. I go through uh, to analyze the data, and I saw that over 90% of people who are interested in our job are the women. So it's not
Yes.
only organizing, but also those people who are finding the time to interest about this. So that makes me feel that we want to go to education more and more when I see
Sure.
such statistics. Yeah.
Sure. No, it's an interesting stat. I don't know the worldwide. I'm quite new to the humanitarian sector, so I'm learning. But no, it's very apparent, and it's maybe the opportunities you are taking there are I don't know if there's a lot of men in the sector. I wonder. I was kind of trying to think how that might have changed, like because your capacity to network, to kind of adapt was phenomenal. And and you were two examples of many others. There's a school in Krakow as well where another woman set up a kind of school for senior people doing similar things. There's your colleague Bogusha and her work in the university. There's just lots and lots of examples. It's not all women, but it's just like it's a very powerful story, isn't it, of kind of women taking leadership.
For sure, yes. And you're mentioning the examples in Krakow, but I know many other NGOs in Poland and other big cities. And all of the ones I think of are led by women.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they all acted the way you're describing, very quickly, very adaptive, and great leadership.
yeah. It's a very powerful story. What are your thoughts now on there's 2 million perhaps in refugees in Poland. The war seems to be um, not ending soon. And what's the atmosphere like in Poland now? What are your challenges, your concerns around moving forward with your support?
It changed for sure. It's completely different environment right now than it was last year. And last year we had so many people willing to help, and it's a good thing, and it's normal, I would say. The community really stood up, and uh, NGOs and just Polish community did a lot of work to welcome the refugees in the first months. But it's not something that can last, and even within NGOs, there is exhaustion. There is burnout. It's
Yes.
unavoidable, I think, after 1 year of hard work. So a lot of people worked, with that adrenaline first
Yeah.
weeks, months, but that's not sustainable. So I guess sustainability is the thing that's that's the biggest
Hmm.
concern right now. There is not lack of interest. No, that's not right, but less interest for sure
Yeah.
in what we do than there was last year. War is not ending. There are people who've been here for a year, and they need a lot of support. I mean, a lot of Polish people say, and that's what we hear, that, oh, they've been here for a year, they should have jobs and be independent. But it doesn't work that way at all. And especially that there's no proper migration policy in Poland. So within that year, not much happened for many of those families. They
Yeah.
feel like they are in that temporary status, and they state, and they don't know what's coming next. And then it's hard to find a job, look for a long-term apartment. They need some more assistance to go
Mhm.
through those steps, and bureaucracy, government issues. There is a lot that people need to do while they're settling in a new country, especially as a refugee. So we need our work, even if the war ends now, help center, access to information, all of this will be required for the next year, 2 years,
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah. Sure. What's your thoughts, Carolina?
Yeah, we concentrate as a foundation with the integration issues because after 3 months of working independently, I mean, from the private monies and some private sector money, the private business, we need to find donors like some international organization who will help us survive because our financing was pretty huge with this project, so impossible to organize such amount every month. So when we start cooperate with the UNICEF, we need to sign the project for like bigger project than only the kindergarten for 100 children. So then in May, we decided to provide the help through the integration center. Um, uh, the cultural center, which helps us to know each other and to avoid the tensions which goes between those this new nation who became the citizens of Krakow here, and some psychological support to at the first step, of course, the children and the caregivers, but then to those who are giving the help. The in this case, we decided to write the program for the teachers, Polish teachers, who were struggling the integration issues in the Polish education system, which is not which wasn't ready for such a huge amount of new children coming, and there was no tools, so no one, of course. The government provides some money, and we hire the amount of children in each class, but no one
Yeah.
explained teachers how to cope with the problems. There was
Mm.
no psychologist, there was no books, nothing to help them with that. So we try to concentrate on this, on integration and psychological support at this point. And I see that we are slowly building after this integration center, which we provide the lessons, the workshops for over 1,000 children every month. So we see that slowly, very slowly, we are knowing each other. We are building the community here. I feel that there is still, we are talking about the integration, but there is a very aggressive attitude to the word assimilation, because like somehow I feel the people have an impression that will kill the national identity, somehow Ukrainian national identity. And maybe that's true. A lot of people will come back. That's why we are still providing and we are still running this Ukrainian kindergarten. Our kindergarten is in the Ukrainian system. So we are trying to help those children to preserve this cultural identity, to learn Ukrainian language, and to continue education in the Ukrainian system, that they can, whenever
Carolina,
they can come back.
when you said there's a tension around assimilation, is that a tension from the Ukrainian side and the Polish side? Is it? Would
I
you?
think that more from the Ukrainian side. They are
They're
afraid.
they're worried about losing their identity. Yeah.
Yes, and that's I understand that. I understand
Yeah. Yeah.
their feelings. So I can imagine
Yeah.
that this is very hard. But when I think about it in a long perspective, for sure, a lot of them will stay in Poland. Mostly of them, they will come back, and that's what I wish them, that they can come back and rebuild their country again. So be the part of
Yes.
Europe, and we can have the neighbors, we know each other, we like each other, we help us, we can help us together. But
Yeah.
in this situation, some of them will stay, and then assimilation, I think, is very important. Like looking, having an eye on Europe and what happened where for the societies where there is no assimilation, that some kind of
Yes.
aggression goes with that after,
Sure.
uh, it's
I
the
have
assimilation is
to
well,
disagree a little bit, if that's okay.
of course.
I was speaking to a professor as well from a University of Warsaw, and there was some research done on migration recently, and he was very much against the word using the word assimilation as well. And I think scientifically as well, we're moving towards uh, integration more, because they can Ukrainians, but also other people from different countries, they can maintain their culture, they can maintain their traditions while being integrated in the society. And we have, thankfully, by now, if 1 year after the war, we have some great examples. We had a lot of people from Roma community coming to our center. They didn't receive help in other places, and they're definitely maintaining their culture and their traditions, but they were able to integrate, and this is wonderful. We employ one person from Roma community. She's a great employee. She's integrated, I guess, within the team within Salam Lab, and they as a community as well. We're working with them as a community, and it's really amazing, and we learn a lot just from working with that community that's just completely different from the other populations we work with. But that's just an example, and there could be many other.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I agree
It's
with
an
you with
interest.
that. But what I just want to say, because I start, I know that this assimilation word is very unpopular right now. But and what we do as a foundation, everything goes about the integration. But
Mhm.
my thoughts about the assimilation are like really long perspective. That for now, integration is of course the obvious way, yes, to cooperate like two nations in this situation. But for a longer period, somehow we cannot be like it will happen somehow. That's better because then you can always, if you want to only to think about the integration, you can think that you will come back to your country one day and you just came here for a moment. And I'm thinking about those who will stay. If they will stay and want to be the part of our community, the assimilation goes like naturally after the maybe second generation. Yeah.
This reminds me of the debate between the French and the English approaches to, like, the London is a multicultural idea, where I lived in London and you have all these cultures. They're integrated. They live together, but they hold on to their identity even second and third generation. And then the French is more of an assimilation model. There's these different discussions, but I mean,
Yeah.
I think what's powerful. I'm hosting two Ukrainian young women. We have two sisters living with us, and it's living with the uncertainty of not knowing. You know, they're both kind of trying to fit in. They both go to school. One goes to university. They're doing really really well, and they're starting to integrate a bit with Irish society. But their parents are in Kiev. Kind of what they're looking forward to going back, and they're living with this kind of uncertainty. It's quite a tension on to live with. I think it's
But
a lot.
where are you based right now?
I'm in Galway on the west coast of Ireland.
It's probably different too. And do you have in Ireland? There's more foreigners than there have always been. There's a lot of Polish people for sure.
Yeah, but not no. It's not it's quite well. It's not similar, but the story of Ireland is emigration. So our Irish people went all over the world, but there wasn't a huge, like in England and UK. There's like big immigration over the years. In Ireland, not so much. So it was a mainly kind of Catholic white society, which is why when the
Mhm.
Polish came, they were fitted in for quite well. But there's a growing immigration, but it's not huge. We were not used to kind of huge immigration here.
We see
It's
a difference in approach for sure after the war broke out. So besides, because we're talking about Salam Lab's humanitarian work or like that work now with integration, but besides that, from the beginning, we were involved in education as well, and we do workshops against discrimination and about working in inclusion and working with multicultural environments, and that's mostly for schools, for teenagers, and for teachers how to work with in the multicultural environment. And there was almost like a very little interest in those classes before the war broke out. And
yeah.
even if schools had children from other countries, other places, this was just not something that interested them or they wanted to learn about. And especially when the crisis at the Belarusian border happened, then, or in 2015, when there were Syrians coming to Europe, this was like a taboo topic,
Mm,
and people didn't want to explore it. And then the war broke out, and we were flooded with requests for classes about multicultural environment and
yeah.
how to work in this mixed society. So it's very interesting, and there's a very big change in Poland about this.
I'm not an expert on Polish history, but as I did live in Krakow for a year, and my wife is from Krakow. But before the Second World War, there was a much more
Hmm.
international integrated. There's Jewish, German, kind of
Yes.
Lithuanian. It was a much more kind of dynamic, multicultural society. It's maybe you're returning to roots.
Yes, and there's not much talk about it, and people. It's not long ago, before the Second World War. That's not
Yeah.
long ago, and
No.
we had Muslims too. We have a Tatar community in their whole area where they live. But if you ask most Polish people, they've never met a Muslim, or they are not even aware that Poland was multicultural before the Second World War. So we're trying to get back there and educate about that. But
Exactly, and
I
this
mean,
situation
the
actually.
situation in that last year sped things up for sure.
Yeah.
I like to see this situation with the migration which we have right now as a opportunity for Poland. You know, not the threat, but the opportunity to prepare for the mass migration for a future. You know, of
Yes.
Europe. So because of every
Yeah.
reason, climate changing and economic political reasons, all of them. So that's the big opportunity for our country to prepare how to act, how to educate, how to integrate, how to cope with this kind of issues for a future. So, and I really appreciate that we have right now a lot of people from other culture here in our city in Krakow. I believe that makes us as a Poles better people if we have some different perspectives and approaches to discuss. Then it always goes something better for
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it will enrich Poland, and you. I mean, one thing really did interest me in my visit there when I visited different NGOs is that almost every NGO, they had a specific focus, whether it was homelessness or education, but they all had building civil society as part of that of their task, and that really interested me, and I thought it was very encouraging. We're coming to the end of the podcast, and I'm just really grateful for you being guests, spending time sharing your stories. It's almost a year into it's just past a year into the war now. Keep up the good work. I hope we can continue supporting you and working with you. I'm looking forward to coming to Krakow again and seeing how we can support you in your wonderful work. So thank you both very much. I ask guests at the end of a show if they have any thoughts on what it means to live a good life and create a good society. So I'm just going to throw it out there. Do you have any thoughts on what it means to live a good life and create a good society?
I think
I
for
would say
both
that
of them, both of those questions. Oh, sorry. My answer would be empathy,
Mm-hmm.
and empathy relates to education. So try to empathize with the people around you, and often that requires education. You need to know what they're going through. You need to know their background story. They're not the same as you, but they have the same emotions, the same feelings and families, and uh, it's also important for us to present as Salam Lab to present human stories of individuals that we meet, because that resonates, and then you can start learning about empathy.
Good. Thank you, Zuzanna. Karolina.
yeah, I focus on education as well, but I believe that it's always very important to ask ourselves what we can do and start to change the world from the change starts in us, like what I can do to change the world. And if you answer this question, if everyone will act, then we will be fine.
Well, you're both great examples of empathetic and activists. So thank you both very much. It's been a delight talking to you. If you would like to support the great work Karolina and Zuzanna are doing, in the show notes, you'll find a link to make a donation.